One of the things I've noticed as we get older is how our relationship with trust begins to shift. When you're young, suspicion feels like armor. You question, you doubt, you double check everything. But with age, something softens. Trust becomes more natural, almost like a gift you offer to the world. There's beauty in that, but there's also a hidden cost. Scammers know this. They know how deeply many older adults value kindness, politeness, and respect. And so they don't just target your bank account, they target your heart. It's not because you're careless or naive. It's because you still believe in decency, in the idea that people mean what they say. That belief is precious, but in the wrong hands, it can be twisted. I've spoken with people who felt ashamed when they realized they'd been tricked, as if it was their fault. But here's the truth. It's not about fault. It's about vulnerability, and vulnerability is part of being human. Think of it this way. Your skin has grown thinner over time, more sensitive to the sun. You don't blame yourself for needing sunscreen. In the same way, your trust has become more open, more transparent, and it deserves its own form of protection. What's difficult is that scams don't always look like scams. They come dressed in friendliness, urgency, or even concern. A voice on the phone says, "Grandma, it's me, I need help." A letter arrives saying you've won a prize. A stranger online offers companionship. And you think, what if it's true? What if I miss my chance to help, or to receive, or to connect? That hesitation, that pause, is all they need. Maybe you've had moments like that, when you felt a little uncertain but didn't want to seem rude by hanging up. Or when you thought, well, maybe just this once. Those are the cracks where doubt sneaks in. But here's the gentle reminder I want to give you. Recognizing the need for boundaries doesn't make you suspicious. It makes you wise. Wisdom is not about closing your heart. It's about learning when and how to open it safely. I sometimes ask people this: what matters more, being polite to a stranger or being safe for yourself and your family? It's not always an easy question, but it's worth sitting with, because your safety, your peace of mind, your dignity, they are worth protecting. You don't have to build walls, just small gates with strong locks. And there are simple tools that can serve as those locks, documents that are not complicated or intimidating, but designed to stand quietly between you and those who would take advantage. We'll talk about them together, step by step, with the same patience and understanding you'd want for a dear friend. For now, I'd love to know, where are you reading this from? Share your city or your country in the comments. It's always fascinating to see how trust and scams show up differently in different places, and your voice might just help someone else feel less alone.
One of the simplest yet most powerful protections you can give yourself is something called a trusted contact form. It sounds formal, maybe even intimidating, but in truth, it's nothing more than a quiet safeguard, a way of telling your bank or financial institution, if something seems unusual with my account, here's the person you can call to double-check before anything goes wrong. Think of it as leaving a spare key with someone you deeply trust, not because you expect to lose your own, but because life has its moments where a little backup makes all the difference. I remember speaking with Helen, a 72-year-old retired teacher from Ohio. She told me how one afternoon she received a call from a charity claiming they were helping children after a natural disaster. The caller sounded genuine, urgent, even grateful for her willingness to listen. She nearly sent several $1,000s. But before the transaction went through, her bank flagged the sudden withdrawal and reached out to her daughter, who was listed as Helen's trusted contact. Within minutes, the truth came out. It was a scam. Helen told me later, with tears in her eyes, "I felt embarrassed at first, but then I realized that little form saved me. It wasn't weakness, it was wisdom." That's what this is about. Not control, not surrendering your independence, but surrounding yourself with people who can stand beside you when pressure comes. And let's be honest, scammers are skilled at creating pressure. They make everything sound urgent. Act now or you'll lose your chance. That urgency can cloud anyone's judgment, no matter how sharp or careful. Having a trusted contact gives you a pause button. It ensures someone else can be brought into the conversation before a rash decision turns into regret. If you're wondering how to set this up, the steps are surprisingly gentle. Call your bank or financial advisor and simply ask, "Do you offer a trusted contact person form?" Most will, and they'll provide it without fuss. You'll be asked to name a person, often a close family member or friend, who will not have access to your money, but will have the right to be called if something looks unusual. Choose someone who respects your independence, someone you feel at ease with. Once you've filled it out, keep a copy in your records, and every year or two, review it to make sure the contact is still the right person. It's a small effort, but it places a steady guardrail on the path ahead. Perhaps the deeper question here is this: who in your life makes you feel both respected and safe? Who listens without judgment? Who values your voice while also willing to protect you when necessary? Choosing a trusted contact is as much about nurturing your relationships as it is about paperwork. Sometimes the very act of naming someone deepens the bond, reminding you that you don't have to carry everything alone. It's easy, especially as we grow older, to feel that asking for help means giving up control.
But what if the opposite were true? What if choosing support was actually a form of strength, a way of preserving your independence rather than diminishing it? That's how I see it. Because independence doesn't mean doing everything alone. It means making thoughtful choices that keep you steady, even when the unexpected arrives. And if this kind of gentle wisdom resonates with you, I encourage you to subscribe so that you won't miss the next practical steps we'll be exploring together. Sometimes the smallest forms can make the biggest difference, and sometimes one small decision today can protect many peaceful tomorrows. There is another document that often carries a quiet but remarkable power, and that is the durable power of attorney. I know even the words themselves can sound heavy, like they belong in a lawyer's office far away from daily life. But when you bring it into focus, it's simply a way of making sure that, if someone ever tries to pressure you into making a financial decision when you're tired, confused, or simply caught off guard, you already have someone chosen who can step in with clarity on your behalf. It is not about giving up your freedom. It is about writing your own rules for protection before anyone else tries to write them for you. You see, our brains age just as our bodies do. We may still be sharp, witty, and thoughtful, but research shows that even subtle changes in memory or processing speed can affect judgment, especially when decisions feel rushed. It's not a failure, it's simply biology. As we age, the parts of the brain that evaluate risk and reward respond differently. What once felt suspicious at 40 might feel trustworthy at 70. That doesn't mean you've lost your wisdom. It means your brain has shifted in how it balances trust and caution. Knowing this can be liberating because you stop blaming yourself and start creating systems that keep you safe. A durable power of attorney is one of those systems. It allows you to name someone you deeply trust to make financial decisions if you cannot. The key word here is durable, meaning it continues to be valid even if you face health challenges or cognitive changes in the future. Unlike a temporary or limited form, this one stays steady, like an anchor holding fast when the water around you gets rough. Choosing the right person can take thought. Ask yourself gently, who in your life has both respect for your independence and the discipline not to misuse authority? It may be a child, a sibling, a lifelong friend. The best choice is someone who listens, who pauses, who knows how to put your well-being first. You can set boundaries within the document itself, specifying what decisions they can and cannot make. In other words, you're not handing over your wallet. You're building a framework for protection that fits your comfort level. Some people hesitate because they fear losing control, but I invite you to think of it differently.
A durable power of attorney is not about stepping back. It is about stepping forward with foresight. It's like carrying an umbrella even when the sun is shining. You're not expecting rain right now, but you know that if it comes, you won't be caught unprepared. And having that umbrella in your hand doesn't stop you from enjoying the sunshine. It just means you're ready for whatever weather arrives. I remember an older gentleman, Robert, who told me after setting his up, "For the first time in years, I slept peacefully. I knew that if a scammer tried to trick me tomorrow, they'd have to get through someone who sees clearly even when I don't." That kind of peace is priceless. So take your time. Reflect on who in your life could be that steady presence. Have a gentle conversation with them about what this role means and ask yourself if it feels right. If it does, you can work with an attorney or a local legal aid office to draft the document. It doesn't have to be complicated. What matters most is the intention behind it. You choosing, you protecting, you caring for your future self with the same love you've always offered others. One of the gentlest yet most effective ways to protect yourself from scams is to reduce the noise that reaches you in the first place. So many of the tricks that prey on older adults arrive through phone calls and mail. Voices that sound urgent, letters that look official, messages designed to stir up worry or hope. And when these messages flood in day after day, they wear you down. Even the strongest person can start to wonder if one of them might be real. That's why tools like the Do Not Call and Do Not Mail registries exist. They are not perfect shields, but they are like closing the windows when a storm is blowing through. You may still hear the wind, but the force against you is much less. Registering your phone number with the National Do Not Call list is a simple step, but it has a powerful effect. It tells telemarketers they are not allowed to contact you. And while it doesn't stop every scammer, it cuts away much of the clutter. You can do this by going online or asking someone you trust to help you. Once your number is registered, you'll notice the phone rings less often from strangers, giving you more peace and quiet in your day. For unwanted mail, there are opt-out services that stop credit card offers, sweepstakes entries, and junk catalogs. These may seem harmless, but scammers often slip their traps among them, disguised as something familiar. Imagine how freeing it could feel to open your mailbox and find only the letters you truly want to read. If you decide to take this step, here's how it can look. First, write down your main phone numbers, home, cell, even a landline if you still have one. Go to the National Do Not Call registry and enter them, or ask a family member to sit with you as you do it. Next, contact the consumer credit reporting companies and request to opt out of pre-approved offers.
Finally, once every couple of years, revisit these steps. Registrations don't always last forever, and refreshing them is like trimming back weeds so your garden stays clear. These may sound like small actions, but they make a big difference. Less noise means more clarity. With fewer interruptions, you have more space to focus on the calls and letters that truly matter, the ones from people you love, the ones that bring you comfort, not confusion. And perhaps more importantly, it restores a sense of control. Instead of feeling like you must defend yourself every time the phone rings, you can decide who gets access to your attention. I often think of Margaret, an 80-year-old widow I once spoke with, who used to dread walking to her mailbox. Every day it felt like someone wanted something from me, she told me. I'd get letters saying I'd won money or that I owed something I didn't even understand, and it was exhausting. After her son helped her sign up for these registries, she said, "Now, when I see the mail, I smile again. I know it's likely to be from a friend or a neighbor, not a stranger trying to take advantage." That's the gift of these simple tools. They give back your peace of mind. So if you've been feeling overwhelmed by constant calls or piles of unwanted letters, consider this as a gentle experiment. You're not cutting yourself off from the world, you're simply creating space for the connections that truly matter. Isn't it worth asking yourself how much lighter your days might feel if the noise quieted down? Sometimes the greatest protections aren't the heavy locks, but the simple closures that keep your world calm and safe. There is a final tool that doesn't require a lawyer, a bank, or any official office. It's something deeply personal, something you can create in your own words with your own hand. Some call it a letter of wishes, but really it is a guide you write for yourself and for those you trust. A reminder of what matters, of what to watch for, and of how you wish to be treated when someone tries to take advantage of your kindness. It's not a legal document, but it can be one of the most powerful because it comes from your heart and speaks directly to your daily life. In this letter, you might write down the warning signs of scams you've learned to recognize: strangers asking for secrecy, phone calls that create urgency, offers that seem too good to be true.
You could include the names and phone numbers of the people you want called if something feels uncertain. You could even write a simple reminder to yourself. I do not need to make decisions quickly. I can always say, let me think about it. Sometimes when we see our own wisdom written in front of us, it becomes easier to trust it in the moment. People often believe only official documents carry weight, but this is a myth. A personal letter can be just as grounding.
Think about how you've saved handwritten recipes, notes from loved ones, or cards that still bring comfort years later. Words on paper hold power, especially when they come from someone you trust. And who could you trust more than your own clear-headed self writing in a moment of calm? I once met a man named Samuel in his late 70s who had been tricked before by a phone scam. Afterward, his son suggested he write down what he had learned. Samuel kept a note by his phone that said, "Real companies don't ask for gift cards. Real grandchildren don't ask for money in secret. Real emergencies can wait for verification." He told me later, "That letter has saved me more than once. I see it, and I remember who I want to be. Calm, thoughtful, not hurried." Maybe you could try something similar. You might ask yourself gently, what phrases would steady me if I felt rushed? What truths do I want to remind myself of when fear or excitement clouds my mind? Writing them down can turn fleeting awareness into lasting protection. You could also share this letter with your trusted contact or the person you've named in your power of attorney. Not to give them responsibility over you, but to invite them into your circle of protection. By sharing your wishes, you make it easier for others to support you in the way you actually want, without guesswork or hesitation. The act of creating such a letter is also a chance to pause and reflect. Aging is not about weakness. It is about gathering layers of experience, about understanding that preparation is a form of self-respect. Just as you might write down your medical wishes or your favorite hymns, writing down how you want to handle financial pressures is another way of caring for your future self. Scams thrive in secrecy. They want you to feel alone, ashamed, uncertain. But when you put your wishes into words, you are breaking that silence. You are saying, my voice matters, my safety matters, my dignity matters. And perhaps most importantly, you're leaving a message not only for yourself, but for those who love you, so they can walk beside you with confidence. If you feel moved by this idea, take a quiet hour this week, sit with a cup of tea, and begin. It doesn't need to be long or perfect. Even a few sentences can shine like a lantern in a dark room. And if this reflection has touched you, I invite you to stay connected by subscribing, so we can continue exploring these gentle ways of protecting ourselves and each other. Tell me, if you feel comfortable, what is one small phrase or reminder you might include in your own letter of wishes? Sometimes sharing even a single line can inspire someone else to begin.